The wrench slipped from Liam Thompson's grease-stained hand as the deep rumble of a Harley-Davidson filled the shop. He straightened up, wiping sweat from his forehead, and saw a mountain of a man swinging a leg over the massive black chopper. The rider wore the unmistakable Hell's Angels colors on his vest, patches worn and faded from years on the road. "She won't hold idle, and she cuts out on the highway," the biker said, his voice rough like gravel. "Fix her right, and I'll pay whatever it takes." Liam nodded, already circling the bike. At 28, he had spent most of his life in this small shop on the edge of Ridgewood, California, a quiet town tucked between the hills and the highway. He was good with engines, better than most, and he liked the quiet work that let his mind wander. The customer was Marcus Kane. Everyone called him Reaper. His reputation arrived long before the bike did. 6'4", broad shoulders, arms covered in tattoos, and a stare that made most men look away. Liam did not look away. He met the man's eyes for a second too long, then got to work. 2 hours later, the Harley purred like new. Reaper leaned against the workbench, watching every move. They talked little at first, just shop talk about carburetors and fuel lines. Then Reaper asked, "You always this calm around guys like me?" Liam shrugged. "Engines do not care who rides them." "Neither do I." Reaper gave a low chuckle, the first crack in his hard exterior. When the job was done, he paid in cash and added an extra $100. "Appreciate it, kid. Not many would touch my bike without asking questions." That should have been the end of it. But Ron, the shop owner, had been watching from the office door. Ron was in his late 50s, built like a barrel, and carried the same opinions he had held since the 70s. As soon as Reaper rode away, Ron stormed over. "What the hell were you doing, Thompson? You know who that was? Hell's Angels. Outlaws. Criminals. And you were chatting with him like he was your buddy." Liam tried to explain it was just a repair. Ron cut him off. "I have had enough of your attitude. People talk. They see you smiling at that kind of man and they talk. You're fired. Clear your locker and get out." Liam stood frozen, the words hitting harder than any punch. He had worked at Ron's Auto for 6 years straight out of trade school. It was the only steady job he had ever known. "You are firing me for fixing a bike?" Ron's face reddened. "I am firing you for bringing that element into my shop. And do not think I have not noticed the way you look at some of the customers. This is a family business. We do not need your kind here." The drive home was a blur. Liam's small house sat on the edge of town, shared with his parents, who still treated him like he was 17. His father, a retired truck driver, and his mother, a church volunteer, had never accepted the truth he told them 5 years earlier. They prayed it was a phase. They hoped he would meet a nice girl. Tonight the house smelled of meatloaf and quiet judgment. He walked in and dropped his toolbox by the door. His mother took one look at his face. "What happened?" Liam told them. His father set down the newspaper slowly. "You got mixed up with a Hell's Angel? Jesus, Liam, what were you thinking?" His mother pressed a hand to her chest. "People will talk. The church group, the neighbors. You know how this town is." Liam felt the familiar weight settle on his chest, the same weight he had carried since he was a teenager, hiding who he was. He went to his room and closed the door, the sound of his father's disappointed sigh following him down the hall. The next morning, Liam sat at the kitchen table staring at black coffee when a knock rattled the front door. His mother answered, and her voice rose in surprise. Liam stepped into the hallway, and there stood Reaper, still in his vest, the morning sun catching the silver in his dark beard. "Heard what happened," Reaper said, his tone flat, but his eyes searching Liam's face. "That was my fault. Figured I owed you more than cash." Liam stepped outside, closing the door behind him. "You do not owe me anything." Reaper studied him for a long moment. "Maybe not, but I pay my debts. You need work, I got a lead on a private garage across town. Owner is an old buddy. No questions asked." Liam hesitated. Taking help from a Hell's Angel would only make things worse. But the rent was due and his savings would last maybe 2 weeks. "Why are you doing this?" Reaper shrugged one massive shoulder. "Because you fixed my bike like it mattered. And you looked me in the eye when most men look at the ground. He handed Liam a scrap of paper with an address. "Think about it." Then he turned and walked back to the Harley, the engine roaring to life and carrying him away. Liam stood on the porch, the paper burning in his hand. His mother watched from the window, her expression a mix of fear and something close to pity. For the first time in years, Liam felt a spark of something dangerous. Not just anger, not just fear, something that felt like possibility. The private garage turned out to be a converted barn behind an old farmhouse 10 miles outside Ridgewood. The owner was a quiet man named Ellis who had done time with Reaper years ago. He asked no questions about why Liam needed work so suddenly. He simply handed over a set of keys and said, "Tools are in the back. First job is the blue Ford in the corner." Liam threw himself into the work, grateful for the distraction. Reaper showed up 3 days later. He did not come for repairs. He came with 2 cups of coffee and a quiet question. "How is it going?" They ended up talking for an hour, leaning against the workbench. Reaper spoke about the road, the brotherhood, the weight of the patch on his back. Liam listened, and for the first time in his life, he talked about the years of hiding, who he was, the careful distance he kept from everyone. Reaper did not flinch. He simply nodded and said, "World is full of people who want to tell you who to be. Sometimes the hardest thing is refusing to listen." Their conversations became a habit. Reaper would stop by after runs or club business, always careful to come when Ellis was not around. They worked on bikes together side by side. Liam taught Reaper a few tricks with modern fuel injection. Reaper taught Liam how to listen to an engine the way a doctor listens to a heartbeat. The silences between them grew comfortable, filled with the clink of tools and the occasional shared laugh. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Reaper asked the question Liam had been dreading. "You ever been with anyone? I mean, really been with someone who knew all of you?" Liam wiped his hands on a rag, staring at the concrete floor. "Once. In college. He left when things got real. After that, I kept it quiet. Easier that way." Reaper was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I have been with women my whole life. Never thought about anything else. But the last few weeks talking to you, it has me thinking about things I never let myself consider." The admission hung in the air, heavy and honest. Liam felt his pulse quicken. "You do not have to say that." Reaper looked at him directly. "I am not saying anything I do not mean. I am just saying I see you, Liam. And it is messing with my head in ways I did not expect." They did not touch. They did not need to. The space between them crackled with something new and terrifying. Word traveled fast in Ridgewood. Liam's mother heard whispers at the grocery store. His father received concerned calls from old friends. One night at dinner, his father slammed his fork down. "People are saying you are spending time with that biker. That you are involved." Liam met his father's eyes. "I am helping him with bikes. That is all." His mother started crying softly. "We raised you right. We took you to church. Why are you throwing your life away like this?" Liam pushed his plate away, the food untouched. "Because for the first time someone sees me. Not the version you want me to be. Me." He left the house and drove to the garage even though it was late. Reaper was there waiting as if he knew. They sat on the tailgate of an old truck, sharing a 6-pack of beer under the stars. "My family is falling apart because of this," Liam said. Reaper nodded. "Club has rules too. Unwritten ones. They find out I am even having these conversations, they will strip my patch. Maybe worse." Liam looked at him. "Then why are you here?" Reaper's voice dropped low. "Because when I am with you, the noise in my head goes quiet. And that has not happened in 20 years. That night they did not kiss. They sat shoulder to shoulder until the sky lightened. But something had shifted. The line they had both been dancing around was no longer invisible. The weeks that followed brought a fragile kind of happiness. Liam and Reaper met when they could always, careful never in public. They rode together on back roads where no one would recognize them. Reaper taught Liam how to handle the big Harley on curves. Liam showed Reaper the simple joy of a quiet morning working on an engine with no deadlines. They talked about everything and nothing. Reaper spoke about losing his younger brother to a bad deal with another club years earlier. Liam told him about the night he came out to his parents and the long silence that followed. One afternoon they were alone in the barn when Reaper reached out and brushed a streak of grease from Liam's cheek. The touch lingered. Liam's breath caught. "I keep waiting for you to change your mind," he whispered. Reaper's hand stayed on his face. "I keep waiting for the fear to come back. It has not." Their first kiss was slow and uncertain, like both men were testing whether the world would end. It did not. Felt like coming home. But the world outside was not kind. Liam's childhood friend Derek worked at the local bar. He cornered Liam one evening. "People are talking. They say you turned that biker. You know what Hell's Angels do to guys who mess with their members? You are going to get yourself killed." Liam tried to walk away. Derek grabbed his arm. "Your dad came in last night. He is ashamed, Liam. Ashamed." The words cut deeper than Liam expected. At the same time, Reaper faced pressure inside the club. His chapter president, a man they called Iron Mike, pulled him aside after a meeting. "You have been distracted lately, Reaper. Spending a lot of time in Ridgewood. Anything we need to know?" Reaper kept his face neutral. "Just fixing bikes. Making money on the side." Iron Mike studied him. "Keep it that way. We got enough heat from the feds. Last thing we need is personal complications." Liam felt the walls closing in. He started having nightmares about his father turning away from him forever. He woke up sweating and reached for his phone, wanting to text Reaper, but stopped himself. He did not want to drag the man into his family mess. Yet every time Reaper showed up, the fear eased. One night Reaper brought dinner, 2 burgers and fries from the only decent place in town. They ate sitting on the floor of the garage, and for a few hours the outside world disappeared. Then the first real threat arrived. Liam was closing the garage when 3 men on bikes rolled up. They were not Hell's Angels. They wore a rival club's colors. The leader spat on the ground. "Heard one of Reaper's boys has gone soft. Hanging around with a pretty little mechanic." "That true?" Liam stood his ground. "You got the wrong guy." The men laughed, but they left without touching him. The warning was clear. Reaper arrived an hour later, furious when he heard what happened. "They will not touch you," he promised. "I will make sure of it." Liam looked at the man who had become his anchor. "And what about your club? What happens when they find out about us?" Reaper pulled him close, the leather of his vest cool against Liam's cheek. "I have given 20 years to that patch. Maybe it is time to decide what is worth keeping." The confrontation with his family came on a Sunday afternoon. Liam's mother invited him to dinner, saying they needed to talk as a family. He knew what that meant. When he arrived, his father was already at the table, his face set in hard lines. His mother had made his favorite pot roast, but the air felt thick with dread. "We know you have been seeing him," his father said without preamble. "That biker. People have seen you together. The whole town is talking." Liam sat down slowly. "His name is Marcus. And yes, we are seeing each other." His mother gasped as if he had slapped her. "How can you do this to us? After everything we have done for you? The church is asking questions. Your cousin called from Fresno. She heard." Liam felt the old shame rising, but he pushed it down. "I am not doing anything to you. I am living my life. For once." His father leaned forward. "That man is dangerous. He is part of a gang. Drugs, guns, violence. And you are throwing away any chance of a normal life for him. What about grandchildren? What about your soul?" The words landed like stones. Liam stood up, the chair scraping loudly. "My soul is not your business anymore. I spent years hating myself because of what you taught me. I am done." His mother started to cry. His father pointed at the door. "If you walk out that door with this choice, you are not welcome back until you come to your senses." Liam left without finishing dinner. He drove straight to the garage where Reaper was waiting. When he told him what happened, Reaper listened without interrupting. Then he said, "I never had a family that cared enough to fight for me. Mine was gone by the time I was 15. The club became my family. Now I am risking that too. They sat in silence for a long time. Reaper finally spoke. I talked to Iron Mike today. He suspects something. Told me to cut ties with anything that could bring heat. I did not agree. That night they stayed together in the small room above the garage. No grand gestures. Just quiet conversation and the steady comfort of another person's breathing. Liam traced the scars on Reaper's knuckles and asked, "Are you scared?" Reaper answered honestly, "Every damn day. But not of them. Of waking up one morning and realizing I let fear take the only real thing I have ever felt." The next week brought more cracks. Derek showed up at the garage drunk and angry. "Your dad asked me to talk to you. He is worried you are going to end up dead or in prison." Liam tried to calm him. Derek shoved him hard. "You think that biker loves you? He is using you. When the club finds out, they will make an example out of both of you." Reaper arrived just in time to see the shove. He stepped between them, his presence alone enough to make Derek back down. "Touch him again and we will have a real problem," Reaper said quietly. Derek left, but the damage was done. The town was choosing sides. The breaking point came during the club's annual run. Reaper had to attend. He left Liam with strict instructions to stay at the garage and keep the doors locked. 2 days later, Liam received a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of his parents' house with the words "Choose Better" written across it. His hands shook as he called Reaper. The phone went to voicemail. That night, 3 men from the rival club returned. This time they did not just talk. They dragged Liam outside and worked him over with fists and boots. "Tell your boyfriend the Angels are finished in this county," one of them growled. They left him bleeding on the gravel. Ellis found him an hour later and drove him to the emergency room. Reaper arrived at the hospital at dawn, still wearing road dust. When he saw Liam's bruised face, his expression shifted into something cold and lethal. "Who did this?" Liam told him. Reaper made a single phone call. Within hours, the rival club's hangout was burning. No one died, but the message was sent. Iron Mike summoned Reaper the next day. The meeting was short. "You brought this trouble to our door. Over a civilian. Over a man. The patch comes off tonight or you ride out and never come back." Reaper stood in the clubhouse looking at the men who had been his brothers for 2 decades. He thought about the nights they had saved each other's lives, the runs, the loyalty. Then he thought about Liam lying in a hospital bed because of him. "I am out," he said. The room went silent. They stripped his patch right there. No one spoke as he walked away. When he returned to Liam, the weight of what he had lost showed in his eyes. "I chose you," he said simply. Liam reached for his hand. "I never wanted you to lose everything." Reaper gave a tired smile. "I did not lose everything. I kept the part that matters." The months that followed were harder than either man expected. Reaper lost his home, his income, and most of his old contacts. He moved into the small room above the garage and took whatever mechanic work he could find. Liam's family kept their distance, though his mother sometimes left messages asking if he was safe. The town whispered louder than ever. Some customers stopped coming to the garage. Others surprisingly started showing up more once word spread that Reaper was no longer patched. They fought sometimes. The stress brought out old fears. Reaper would wake from nightmares about his brother and the club he left behind. Liam would withdraw when the loneliness of being disowned hit too hard. But they always found their way back to each other. One quiet evening, Reaper took Liam for a ride on a new bike he had built from parts. They stopped on a hill overlooking the valley as the sun set. "I used to think freedom was the road and the patch," Reaper said. "Turns out freedom is choosing who you ride with." Liam leaned against him, feeling the steady beat of the other man's heart. "I was so scared of losing my family I almost lost myself. You showed me I could survive that." They had both paid prices no one should have to pay. Reputation, safety, belonging. Yet, in the wreckage, they had found something solid. Years later, when people asked how they made it work, they never had a simple answer. They simply said they chose each other every single day, even when the world demanded they choose sides. In a world that demands you choose sides, was Liam right to follow his heart, or did he destroy everything that once mattered?